Hello, YouTubers. I'm Tom. This is part 4, and we'll be installing the pistons and cylinders in this part. If you haven't seen 3, 2, and 1, you might want to go through those. They're in the playlist. Give you an idea what's going on here. The crankshaft's already been installed, but we're going to do the pistons and cylinders here. And then at the end, I'll fire it up. I'll just crank the starter over the pistons and you'll see it rotate. So with that being said, let's get to work.
I made a little mistake and forgot to turn on the mic, but I'll just narrate. Um, Here we have the cylinder unit that's going to bolt onto the bottom end. Those are the power valves. I installed those. They're pretty easy to install. Just follow the torque and the assembly sequence, and you'll be fine. They control the exhaust flow, and at high end speeds, high RPMs, you want to change that flow a little bit. Uh, the rings that are on the piston, they'll need to be compressed and put in there. I'll show you how to do that when I put this cylinder on. But we're going to put a little oil in the cylinder too to protect it, give it a little lube before we start. Now, the piston here. Here we have an arrow. That arrow must go towards the exhaust. It's very important that that arrow is pointing towards the exhaust so that the piston is positioned right for the intake and exhaust ports. There is a retaining ring for the piston pin, and that just slides. It's a wire that just slides in a slot, and you have to have the opening pointing a certain way, and it shows it in the manual. I forgot to cut a picture of that, but it's pretty easy to do. Just pop it in, make sure it's seated in the groove, and you're good to go. There shouldn't be anything else. Now, I did install the piston rings. As you can see, those have a slant on one side of the piston ring that goes up. It shows you in the manual how to put those piston rings on. No big deal. You can always refer to some other YouTube to find that. Now we're going to take the piston pin and we're going to give it a little lube. It's good for the startup. And then just push it right on through. Now, you don't want to push it all the way through, just a little bit, and we have a washer that will go on each side of that pin, and the pin will go through the piston bearing. So you don't want to drop that down in the crankcase because that could cause a lot of problems, could be a real problem to get out. Now, oil up your piston rod bearing. Give it a liberal shot of two-stroke oil. Some people use assembly lube. I just use a good dose of two-stroke lube. Then go ahead, once again, make sure that arrow is pointing to the exhaust. That's so critical. Otherwise, you'll blow that engine up as soon as you fire it up. Now, put it right over. I've got the ring or the washer in there. And sorry about blocking your view. It's kind of a tight spot. But push it back so you can get that piston rod bearing in there. Then the pin goes right through the bearing and the washer. There's another washer on the other side I'll show you in a minute, but I got to get this piston pin through. Let's see how well that works. And now we're ready for the other washer. But so that I don't drop this thing down in the crankcase, which could be catastrophic, I'm going to plug it up with some rags and a paper towel down there so that if it does drop, I can easily fish it out. Then go ahead, put the washer on the other side. Push your pin all the way through. You got to center that washer and you finagle it a little bit. Just work it around. Don't try to force these things. These things should slide in nice and easy. You will have to jiggle it around to make sure it goes in. There, we got it in. Now we take the other retaining clip or retaining wire, and we're going to just shove it right in the other side, and we make sure it's seated in the groove with the open face sticking a certain way, like the manual says. It's kind of tough for me to do this because the metal is so cold. My hands are starting to freeze, but we'll get it in there. And that looks about it. And then we'll just keep doing the other two, and I'll speed up the motion for you. But that's it for installing the pistons. One thing I neglected to mention is that you should check your ring gap. There's a lot of good YouTube videos on ring gap, but the gap between the split in the ring has to be a certain measurement. If it's too narrow, it's going to expand with heat and score the side of the cylinder. And if it's too wide, you're going to lose compression and things like that. So if you never did ring gap before, you might want to look up some videos on YouTube. There's a lot of great ones out there, and check that ring gap. Now, I checked the ring gap on this particular machine, and it was good because these cylinders came as a match set, but I still checked it just to make sure. So check that ring gap. Here we're getting ready to install the cylinder. First, the gasket goes on, and you can only put it on one way. It will only fit one way. Then there are a couple of alignment pins, and I'll show you these alignment pins in a second here. Here are the alignment pins. Those go in. There's two of them. They make sure the cylinder is perfectly aligned with the piston. Now we put a little oil on, make sure it's well oiled so that we have some lube when we start it up. A lot of that oil will be retained in the cylinder because of the cross scoring of the cylinder. And put a little bit on the piston itself. Now the rings have to be compressed, and there's a pin in the ring groove that the ring opening has to be centered on. So you got to swivel them around and get them in position. Now, I don't have a ring compressor. Probably could have bought one. They're not too expensive, but these cylinders are pretty easy to get on without using a ring compressor. It's just you got to finagle them around a little bit. The first one I did, I kind of struggled with. The second and third one went on real smooth because I got the trick. But you just get them positioned, pressed in, and bing, just pop it down and go on to the next one. Pretty simple. 1, 2, 3, and we'll have this all installed, and we'll be ready to go. And I just keep going on. Same thing, lube generously. Get the springs lined up, and on it goes. Give me a second here. Okay, there we are. So we have all three cylinders put in there. Now we're going to have to go on to the bolts to bolt them down. We have to, I put on Loctite 572. And we just put them on there in the holes. Now these two get torqued, and I forgot the torque, but it's something like 40 pounds, foot-pounds. It's in the manual. There we go, torque. Crisscrossing them, of course. Torque, torque. Click, 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 click. And a second torque. And we're good to go.
All right, we're going to go ahead and put on our reeds. We're not going to put on the carburetors because they stick out too far, and it would cause a problem getting the lowering the engine into the jet ski. So I'm just going to put on the these reed boxes. These things they have a little flap. These are dual stage high performance reeds. The carburetors go on top, sucks fuel in, but when the piston comes down, it compresses the gases in the crankcase, and these reeds prevent it from coming out. So let's go ahead and get these installed here. And this engine will be it will be ready to go into the jet ski. I took the liberty of already putting Loctite on my bolts. Get them in here.
I'll first get them all lined up and screwed down, just snug. They take a torque of 5.8 foot-pounds, not a lot of torque, but they have a torque sequence that you have to follow. And the torque sequence is in the book. It is not labeled on the part itself, like they would label 1, 2, 3, 4, and all that. So that's why you see me looking over to make sure I get the right one. One final check of the torque, and then we're going to turn this baby over.
All right, we've got the pistons and cylinders assembled. It's ready to be turned over. Let's take a look at it. Check that out. Gotta love it. Go, baby, go. Okay, we've got the motor semi-completed. I've installed a chain so that my engine hoist will connect to this. We'll lift it up, put it in the bilge of the ski. That's about it for this video. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe and give me a thumbs up if you like it. But one more time for the crank over. You gotta love that. See you on part 5.